Hey everyone, Refund Arcade back with another video. Here we are with more of the whole cabinet gutted to prep it for paint, all kinds of stuff. Confirmation here of the cabinet that it was the bubbles. As I was peeling off the overlay here for Arch Rivals, it reveals the bubbles overlay underneath. We're actually going to strip all this off down to bare and fill all these holes and then go back and remake it, or at least fill up these holes for potential resale, maybe the claw form or something like that, as I'll probably be getting a custom one made by another gentleman that works on these, handmade, custom made from him. One thing to note too is you can see how hacked up this panel was to turn it into an Arch Rivals. The original recessed button space here is just perfectly designed for leaf switch style buttons, as opposed to these gigantic holes that were just placed in for kind of your standard button holes, that led to having to use something like this to hold up your leaf switches and also recess the button in it itself. Take a look at this. This has all been sanded down. If you look at an original, I just dropped it, pull one of these out. See how thick this base piece is? I'm not gonna take it out of the bag, but see how thick that base piece is? Now, if we look at one of these original pieces, somebody sanded the heck out of this, maybe on a belt sander or something, to reduce this to be completely flush, because they were not placing the leaf switch down into the hole itself, which this is too small to do. They were just letting it sit flush, of course on the other side here, and strapping the button down with the PAL nut as it sits through there. So this kind of interesting impromptu solution here worked, I'm sure, at the time, but not something I really want to do myself. And whenever we go to get the board, a new control panel built, I've asked the gentleman that's going to build this for me to have these proper recesses in, so that I don't have to deal with using these. I actually bought these extra because I have a metal control panel that is perfectly designed to just use the metal and not have wood at all, for usually a multi-Williams cabinet. And these are really made to use and use for these metal control panels, which I might build that just for the heck of it, to have it as an extra one. But yeah, that's the control panel stats. Still need to rip all this off. You can see that I drilled out the log. I was gonna film it, but it was loud and messy. You can see that inside here is the coin door, or the coin coin bin for the game, and it actually had a few quarters in it when I pulled it out. The oldest one in there was from the 60s. The newest one there was from the early 90s, which I thought was pretty cool. So $1.25 worth of quarters loose change in there, which is awesome. Oh, our dryer has finished running. Anyway, so as we look at the right side here, I was sanding the heck out of this thing. You can see it's not as noticeable where all the giant, originally kind of gray tan areas were. I'd hit that with a sander and try to suck up as much of the dust as I can. Had the shop back running at the same time as my sander here, that also sucks in some debris. And also have, the green light is officially on over there, the air purifier on max to make sure that we get all the dust out of the air so it doesn't lay on my other electronics, my tools, and other places. You also got the window open with a fan blowing out, so to push some of that other dust out. So stay safe. I also wore this, probably see it in the glass here, this mask to protect myself as well, to not get dust in my lungs. We have quite a bit to do here. I wanted to give you an update on what we're gonna do with the side art. I had worked with Jeff West at XL Arcade. He has confirmed he's gonna do that special work for me, take this Robotron Bubbles Cinestar style shape of this cabinet and work with the side art that he's got for original dedicated Pigskin and make it fit. He's gonna send me a proof after he's ready to show something to me, and then if we like it, we'll have him print it and ship it out. So super excited to let this be a super custom cabinet. you know, you won't see probably another cabinet like this ever that's going to have custom side art for a Pigskin that looks like the dedicated side art. Normally you just see the side art that's just a simple rectangular shape with whatever they'd have with a black cabinet. So wiping this down, I'm actually going to put a layer of paint on this to make sure it's nice and clean, depending on the situation. But you know, I wanted to make sure I cleaned this up before we put the overlay on. I actually may not even need to paint it depending on the circumstances, because I don't want to cause any issues with regard to the adhesion to the side art. I also pulled out the marquee. Let's take a look up in here. Interesting thing going on here. You can see here's the old speaker. This is actually going to be replaced. I've already picked up a speaker equivalent, similar equivalent online. This is actually the same exact speaker that I've got sitting here on my bench, and it's same, well, very similar to what is up in this cabinet right now, except for it's much newer and probably not dry rotted and sounding not as great. As you can see in the back too, there is our marquee light. You can see the various components of the marquee light. The one thing that scared the heck out of me, and it's not necessarily horrible, but it's not necessarily safe either, is they just have electrical tape on this 120 volts coming in. And you can see that just literally no wire nuts. Yeah, they don't care. They're just gonna tape it off. It's the early 80s. They don't care about safety. As you can look in here too, there's the 3-prong plug. You only have 2 things coming out of it, which means this thing probably isn't properly grounded. I guess maybe it is. Depends on where that other line's coming in. You can see the starter here, things like that. My plan is to rip this all out, whether it works or not, replace it with something else that's going to be able to be mounted back here, and just be a little safer. I don't know if anybody on Claw would want this thing, so I'll make sure that we don't just hack it up and throw it away. If people think that there's a value there, then maybe we just give it away. I don't want to sell it per se. There's just some small parts that some of the hardcore folks that want to use the original pieces, I'd rather pass that along to them. You can see there's a grounding wire in here throughout the cabinet. Most cabinets have all kinds of these metal grounding wires throughout all the metal pieces throughout these arcade cabinets, just for safety purposes, so nothing is going to zap you. Anything metal could potentially zap you if it's not properly grounded with the high voltage coming in here. And of course, we're going to swap out these speaker wires. This is going to be a wire that goes to the original harness that's down there, our JAMA harness, and it looks like they solder these guys in whenever they put this in. And what I'll do is I'll just put some clips on here, some quick disconnects and QDCs, and then plug them right into the new speaker, and then we will get that all mounted. I don't know how many screws they've got on that one. Hopefully it'll fit right well. Oh, there's my timer. Stop. That timer is to let me know that I've waited for 10 minutes to make sure I check on how things are doing oxygen wise down here, so that we know it's safe. All right, so that is it for the video today. Side art's coming soon, so that means we're gonna have to remove this tube sooner rather than later. Probably, you know, somewhat later, because Jeff's gonna be working on that custom artwork. I don't expect it to be done immediately. He'll need some time to print it as well and then ship it out. So we'll get this tube pulled out at some point soon as we pull off other parts to gut this thing, and then it'll be much lighter. At that point, we can lay it on its side in here, and then we can actually put the side art on without issue. A couple things to note here. As you can see, this piece has been removed, damaged, probably broke off at some point. So there's a little less support on this back, or this glass. And this is glass. This is not a plexi. This is a full-on piece of glass that is much heavier, just like the Mortal Kombat cabinet. You know, having original glass, you know, you got to make sure you have something that's going to secure this thing. So normally this has probably always been just open like this, so that the operator can come in here, lift the glass and pull it out as needed. But this here, just not being secure. I mean, what I could do is get a piece of wood that would sit up underneath this, and maybe just drill some sort of bracket system in here to make sure it's secure. But to be honest, it's probably been broken for quite some time, and it hasn't been a problem. So we may not even touch this, because you don't normally see it whenever the control panel's on there. These control panel lock latches are going to be pulled off at some point too. We're going to clean those up. They're pretty dirty still. I didn't wipe these down yet. Some of the paint's chipping off of it. I just want to give it a good scrub down. You know, coat it up with some oil for some of the moving parts, just to make sure it's not getting any rusty buildup, things like that. Make sure it's in good working order. And then we're gonna do, no matter what, if we don't do the paint on the side art areas of the cabinet, we will paint the front of the cabinet and the top of the cabinet. We're gonna jump up there really quick before we wrap up the video. I'll show you one more thing. Up here, you can see a lot of the paint is starting to chip away, and you see the bare wood exposed. So one of the things here we're gonna do is we're gonna give this a proper sanding, get all the loose paint off of this thing, and then give it a good paint work. Have a roller that's designed to fit on small spaces and be able to just roll on some nice fresh black paint all over the cabinet here that's relevant to the spots that we want to work on. And you can see here I had filled in some wood filler spot throughout this area, and then we sanded this area specifically. There was a couple spots of damaged wood from moisture, so I'd pull out as much moisture as I could right here using a couple different techniques, and then I covered it up with this wood filler and then sanded it down to get a lot of the rough edges out, and it actually worked out really well. You can see some depth of the resurface process here that was not as perfect as I'd like it to be, but overall pretty solid. One thing to note too is there's 4 screw holes on the marquee setup here, only 2 screws on this, and that's probably all you really needed to hold the marquee topper on. But in this case, whenever I go back to work on this and replace it, I will fill in all 4 holes with screws to, you know, just make it look finished as opposed to just partially finished. No T-molding on there yet. I have not yet ordered that. We will determine the T-molding based on how the side art works. I know it's going to be determining the T-molding based off of the marquee itself, but I'm actually going to wait, see the coloration details and what makes me creatively want to pick a color. I don't know, most likely something on the side art as opposed to just the marquee. All right, that's the video for today. About 12 minutes in, right? Yeah, about 13, so not too bad. All right, well, more to come on this guy, and looking forward to showing off the progress. Stay tuned. Thanks.